If we took a second to look at the people here in the audience, and just people in this room in general, well, just the way everyone looks, I look like this. What their name is, Mehdi. Where they come from, Morocco. Things they like, music. Things they don't like, hot sauce. We would have so many different answers and so many different options. And the reason behind that is, as human beings, we're diverse and we're multidimensional and multicultural. The way I see it, the world is this kind of a brand new type of a movie theater experience. Think 3D, but 10 times better, like 12D, which I know isn't possible, but just for the sake of the metaphor. And in that movie theater, you have more than 7 billion different types of movies. Some of them are short, some of them are longer. Some of them have a happy ending, others not so much of a happy ending. And all of these movies are available for you to watch for free. You would think, what, 7 billion movies for free? I mean, guys, bring the popcorn. I'm gonna do this all day, I'm gonna quit my job. But then one day, somebody decides to go watch one of these films and leaves 10 minutes after the beginning, decides that it's not so interesting, writes that down on a piece of paper and hangs it right at the door for everyone to see. Now, people who were maybe excited to watch that movie see that sign and think, well, maybe I'm gonna watch something else after all. And the same thing happens in reality, In this planet, we're more than 7 billion people, all different and all diverse. And you would think it's an amazing opportunity to interact and discover as many cultures and just find out about different types of personalities. Yet there's always something in the way. There's always going to be that person who's going to write something down on a piece of paper and stick it up your forehead. Always going to be these groups of people who will try to put you in a certain category or in a certain box. There are always these obstacles that we can't seem to tackle in an easy way. And these obstacles are called labels. Now, when you hear that word for the first time, you might think of something like this. A clothing label, the thing that scratches you in the back so you decide to cut it and realize you've made a great mistake because now it's worse. Or it could be something like this. The little sticky things that you find on your apples. Apples being the things you're supposed to eat every day, but you never do. But the labels that I refer to don't have any colors or graphic elements or shapes or designs. They're simple words just like these. And we use them every day. But the thing is, when we ascribe a label to someone, we're literally on the edge of assuming things about them, things about who they are or what they're thinking. And when we do that, when we make these assumptions, it suddenly becomes very hard for us to look back to see if these assumptions are actually true or not. And that can then lead us to what is known as prejudice and bias and just different settled opinions about all kinds of different people. Now, still, we're human beings, so we need to describe what's going on around us. We can't just not use any kind of description, obviously. For example, if I say beautiful, say a beautiful house. Maybe to me, a beautiful house would be something a little more traditional, maybe vintage. And to you, a beautiful house could be futuristic decor or modern or contemporary. So if I invite you over to my beautiful house, you might think, wow, this is a cool place. Do you live with your grandmother? Still, to me, it is beautiful, but the label itself is not enough, Yet, it seems kind of strenuous to get to describe what you're talking about in a conversation because, when you're having a conversation, you'll just say beautiful house because it gives a common reference point in a discussion. It doesn't seem essential to say something other than just the label. Now, in one of my previous years in college, we had this computer programming project that we had to do. And we couldn't choose the partner who we were going to work with. And let me just go right off the bat and say this. I don't like computer programming. I may, study engineering, but that's just, we're not friends, I don't know if I don't like it or it doesn't like me, but we're just not meant to be on opposite sides of a computer, I guess. And at the time, all my friends would say that exchange students are great people to socialize with, really awesome, but not the best partners in projects because allegedly they just lay back while you do all the work and they blame it on the language barrier. Now, obviously, it sounds totally made up and you would think only the stupidest people would buy that, but I did. And I ended up with an exchange student, obviously. So, and when I found out, I could already see myself, failing from a distance. But I thought, you know what, I'm gonna do my best and see what happens. So the first session of the project goes by, and it went just as horribly as I expected. I mean, I wrote maybe like 50 lines of code, which is a personal record. Thank you very much. Well, 50 lines out of 400 on the average, but still it doesn't count. Still an achievement. I struggled a lot, and but it was nothing more than I expected, to be honest. And the second session comes by, and this guy, the exchange student, let's call him Ted. I live for the simple things. So Ted is sitting there, and he's finished the first part of the project and is starting to work on the second one. And at this point, I'm confused. I'm like, hey, Ted, like, Teddy, don't you want to share something with me? I don't know, like, I'm a computer genius, and I never told you. I was confused. I was like, what is happening? I didn't know you were that good. And it turns out that actually, just as I thought of him as an exchange student, he thought of me as an overachiever because apparently students of his school said that about people of my university when they go on an exchange there. So basically, they thought that we were overachievers who don't accept defeat. So Ted was actually, I guess, afraid to interrupt me while I was doing my very hard work because he was afraid that I would have a breakdown or, call a therapist to deal with my trauma failing for the first time. Not the case. At that point, I could use any kind of interruption, earthquake included. But that's a simple example, yet it's very effective because it shows how labeling can actually affect communication. And I'm sure that you can all relate to that, right? I mean, you've all had at least one experience in your life when you thought to yourself, wow, I was wrong about that person, right? No? A person in the audience is going, no, like I never had him as, I'm always right. Good for you. But then why do we do it? Why do we put labels on people? Thing is, when you put a label on someone, you kind of like put a curtain between you and that person. And that curtain only allows you to see a very small view of an extensive and really huge personality in person. That's so much more simple to deal with. And the reasons that we might find use in labels is actually that, first of all, it's effortless to accept an assumption than actually having to look up the facts yourself. And the second reason may be that if we're not totally sure about a label, we would rather go along with what the majority says than to show that we ourselves don't know very much about it. And the final reason is that we like to fit in. I mean, honestly, as human beings, we like to stay in the in crowd. And we're afraid that the moment that we will stand out for a label that we actually don't believe in and speak up, we ourselves might not be in the normal crowd anymore. Now, not so long ago, I was on my Facebook page, just scrolling through my timeline, and I stumbled upon this article that said something about a presidential candidate in the United States. he kept a very low profile, so I really don't know if you know him. But he's got the same first name as Donald Duck, I'll say that much. Can you guys just say his name like out loud on a count of 3? 1, 2, 3. Yeah, that's him. I just made you say it because I'm not sure that I'm allowed to. So now if somebody's pressing charges, you're going to jail, and I'm good. Okay, so this article was about that guy, and it basically said that Mr. Yeah, thank you. Wow. It said that Mr. was actually planning on banning all Muslim immigration to the United States until they figure something out. And that that happened right after the Paris attacks. So, obviously, after what happens in the Paris attacks, now all Muslims are dangerous because there's no line between Islam and radical Islam, as you guys know. What's the difference between a dolphin and a spoon? They're the same. No difference. But anyway, I really was hoping that it would be some kind of a misleading title, the kind of titles that only are there for you to click on them, like sometimes you see an article that says, cure for cancer finally found. And you click on it, and basically the article says that some scientist in North Korea found a molecule that could possibly make chemo less painful. That's good, but that's not what I signed up for. And at that point, I was really hoping that it would be that kind of an article, but it wasn't. The article was just as bad, if not more, than the title. And, just to have a quick look at what it is, really. Do you know how bad it is to put one person in a box? No? Cool. 'Cause I got a picture. This is Henry Box Brown. He's actually a big icon in the era of slavery in the United States, but we won't get into that today. Do you see how mad he is to be in that box? Do you? No? Good, because I got a picture. Oh, there you go. He's not having it, you guys. Well, thank God I didn't go to our school. Now, how about putting 1.5 billion people in a single box? How about that? Do you guys know how much 1.5 billion is? No? Because I got a picture. This is the stadium this is the Stade de France. It actually could fit 80,000 people. Now, in order to get about 1 million, you would have to multiply it by 12, as you can see in the picture. And in order to get the 1.5 billion number, you would have to take this picture and multiply it by 1,500. Do you guys know how that would look like? Well, I don't have a picture. It would have taken way too much time, and I had things to do that day. Sorry. But you guys can imagine, you have a good imagination, I guess. So putting 1.5 billion people in one single box, like this one, and put a label on it, obviously, dangerous. Now, at first, I was kind of, angry because I didn't understand why. It didn't really make sense inside my head. I felt pointed at some point, obviously, because I'm a Muslim. But then I was starting to feel a little bit more confused because the idea that I could be considered a threat eventually to any country in the world was kind of scary because my biggest fear in life literally is that one day the world will run out of pizza. Does that sound dangerous to you? I don't know. But then I started feeling sorry for that man. Because how old is he? Isn't he like 69 years old? In 69 years of living, he never really got to engage with one single real Muslim who's not wearing an orange suit that could actually, just talk to him, have a casual conversation just to see what's really, hiding under the covers, to see what Islam is all about. And that's exactly why I'm doing this conference today, because at the end of the day, we don't want to be 69 years old. I don't want to be. I don't know about you. I guess you agree with me. I don't want to be 69 years old and realize that I've been, misjudging a whole community or a group of people. And at the end of the day, I hope that you now have figured out that, using less labels can actually truly help us on having a better, if not the best, communication. Thank you very much.